You watched him flex in the mirror. You watched him get rejected. You laughed. Everyone laughed. That was the point. But here is the thing nobody said out loud. Johnny Bravo was not a joke. He was a portrait. A careful, surprisingly accurate portrait of a man who could not feel anything unless someone was watching him. And the show knew exactly what it was doing. Johnny Bravo premiered on Cartoon Network in 1997. On the surface, it was a parody. A big guy with bigger hair who thought he was God's gift to women and kept getting proven wrong. Punchline after punchline. Episode after episode. The joke never got old because Johnny never learned. He could not learn. That was the whole premise. But that inability to learn is not just a comedy mechanic. It is the defining feature of narcissistic personality disorder. And the writers, whether they intended it or not, built it into Johnny from the ground up. NPD is not the same as confidence. That distinction matters more than most people realize. Genuine confidence is rooted in something internal. It does not need constant proof. It does not collapse the second no one is looking. Johnny's version of confidence was different. It was entirely external. It existed in reflections, in other people's reactions, in the imagined version of himself he carried everywhere. The moment that image was threatened, everything cracked. Psychologist Otto Kernberg spent decades studying narcissistic personality structures. He described a specific pattern, a grandiose self-image on the outside, and underneath it, an almost complete inability to tolerate being seen as ordinary. The grandiosity is not arrogance. It is armor. It protects something fragile. Watch any episode of Johnny Bravo, and you will see Kernberg's model playing out in real time. Johnny walks into a room and immediately announces himself. He does not wait to be noticed. He cannot wait. Waiting means the room might not care, and that possibility is unbearable. So he fills the silence before it can say anything. He walks up to a woman and delivers lines so disconnected from reality that they circle back around to being almost philosophical. Do you have a mirror in your pants? Because I can see myself in your pants. That is not a pickup line. That is a man inserting himself into someone else's existence before she has a chance to define the interaction on her own terms. Every interaction Johnny initiates is about control, about narrative, about making sure he is the center before the center can form without him. And then she says no. She always says no. This is where the show gets psychologically interesting. A person with actual high self-esteem hears rejection and processes it. It stings, maybe, then it passes. But Johnny does not process rejection. He sidesteps it. He reframes it instantly. She must be confused. She must not have gotten a good look. She'll come around. The rejection bounces off a surface so polished there is nothing for it to stick to. Jean Twenge, a psychologist who has studied narcissism across generations, describes this as the narcissistic immunity response. The self-image is so rigid that contradicting information gets filtered out before it can land. Johnny is not being stupid when he misses the point of every rejection. He is protecting himself the only way he knows how. That's the dark part, the part the laugh track covers up. Because Johnny is not malicious, he is not cruel, he is not even particularly selfish in the way people usually mean. He doesn't scheme, he doesn't manipulate for gain. He just genuinely cannot conceive of a world where he is the main character. He is trapped inside a story he wrote about himself before he was old enough to know stories could be wrong. His mother, Bunny Bravo, appears throughout the series. She is loud, loving, and endlessly indulgent. She tells Johnny he is the most handsome man alive. She tells him he is special. She never challenges him. She is not a villain, and the show never frames her as one. But the dynamic she and Johnny have is exactly the dynamic researchers like Alice Miller identified as a potential seed of narcissistic development. A child who learned that love was conditional on being exceptional, who internalized that condition so deeply that eventually the performance of exceptionalism felt like the self. Johnny is not pretending to believe in himself. He actually believes it. That's what makes him sympathetic in a way that is hard to articulate. He is not a con man. He is his own most convinced audience. But here is what the show never quite says, even though it keeps circling it. That belief costs him everything. Think about what Johnny actually has. He lives with his mother. He has no lasting relationships. Every connection he forms resets by the next episode. He has no career, no goals, no arc. He is 30 years into a Friday night he'll never get past. And the reason is not bad luck. The reason is that real intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires the ability to be seen as less than perfect. And that is the one thing Johnny cannot survive. Research on narcissistic personality consistently finds the same thing at the core, not arrogance, but fragility. Psychologist Craig Malkin, in his work on narcissistic spectrum behavior, describes the deep loneliness that sits underneath the performance. Not loneliness as a mood, loneliness as a structural feature. When the self is a performance, no one ever meets the person inside it. There is no person inside it to meet, or at least that's what it feels like from the inside. Johnny flexes in the mirror in episode after episode. He stares at his reflection with an intensity that is almost tender. And when you look at that scene through a psychological frame instead of a comedic one, it stops being funny. It becomes something closer to sad. He is looking at the only version of himself he trusts, the one that doesn't talk back. The show wrapped this all in a comedy format because a comedy format made it watchable. You couldn't have 12 episodes of a man slowly realizing his self-image was a cage. Nobody would watch that. But you could get people to watch him fail over and over if you called it slapstick. And in doing so, you let something true in through the side door. Because you knew kids like Johnny. Maybe you still do. Maybe you have worked with one, or dated one, or grew up in the same house as one. The grandiosity, the way they talk over you, the way rejection never quite reaches them, the way you can feel them performing even in private moments. And underneath all of it, the sense that they are not doing this because they feel good. They are doing it because stopping would mean facing something they don't know how to face. Johnny Bravo was never really about a funny guy who couldn't get dates. It was about what happens to a person when the mirror becomes the only audience that matters. And you watched it every Saturday morning and laughed. Because what else were you supposed to do with something that true?